Good morning, friends. Welcome to another lecture on polity static. And in the last lecture, we finished the Parliament chapter. In this lecture, we will be covering state legislature, constitutional bodies, and non-constitutional bodies. So, most of the things in state legislature is similar to that of Parliament. So that is why we are going through this chapter. We'll go through this chapter very quickly. We'll only discuss things in detail where the provisions and the powers of state legislature is different from the parliament. Rest which is same will not cover, right? So Article 168 to Article 212 deals with state legislature, and next we come is the organization of state legislature. So when we say of parliament, in parliament there is only one parliament in India. So the seats there are uniform. It is 552 in Lok Sabha and 250 in Rajya Sabha. But in state assemblies, based on population, each state has different number of members of or different number of MLAs. So most of the states in India have a unicameral system, which means they just have one house. However, 7 states in India, this could be a question for the prelims, only 7 states in India have bicameralism, which means they have 2 houses, Legislative Assembly and Legislative Council. So these 7 states are Andhra Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Maharashtra, Karnataka, J&K and Telangana. So in the old edition of Lakshmikant, you have the 6 states given because they have only given Andhra Pradesh as 1 state. But in the new edition, they have updated it with 7 states. So you have Andhra and Telangana also. So how do we abolish or how do we establish and abolish legislative council? This is again a thing which is very important. So in order to establish a legislative council, the state assembly has to pass the bill or has to pass a resolution with special majority, which means majority of the house and 2/3 members present and voting. So after the state assembly passes the resolution, the parliament has to just pass the bill by simple majority, which means that if 100 people have come, so 51 agree that yes, we need to establish a legislative council in a particular state, then that bill will be passed, and that bill will not be considered as a constitutional amendment with respect to Article 368. So one thing you need to remember is that Parliament cannot take the decision suo moto for creation of legislative council. It is always the state assembly who will first have to pass the resolution by special majority, and after that it goes to Parliament, and Parliament passes the bill by simple majority and legislative council is created. Next is how do we abolish this legislative council? So this is also done in the same procedure. So first the state assembly has to pass by special majority resolution regarding abolition of legislative council, and then Parliament has to ratify it by just simple majority. So the process of creation of legislative council and abolition of legislative council is similar. Next is composition of assembly. So composition of assembly is also similar like we have in the parliament, which means that people in legislative or MLAs in legislative assembly are elected by the people based on universal adult franchise. However, the strength of assembly is different in each state. So according to the constitution, the maximum strength of assembly can be 500 and the minimum strength is 600. Sorry, minimum strength is 60, right? However, in case of, there is some exemption given to 3 states which are, it is given to Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Goa. In these states, the maximum or the number of MLAs are less than 60, so they have been given some exemption. Also, in some states, not all the MLAs are elected directly. So if a question comes in your prelims exam which says that in all the states of India or all the MLAs in India are elected directly, then you have to mark it wrong, because there are some states like Sikkim and Nagaland where some members are elected indirectly, right? They are not elected by the people. Next is the provision of nominated member. So, the governor can nominate one member from an Anglo-Indian community, and this provision was originally for 10 years, but now this has been extended till 2020. Next we have is territorial constituency. So this is again same as we have in the parliament, that each assembly seat in India should have a similar kind of population. Next is readjustment after every census. So according to the provision, a readjustment has to be made in the total number of seats in the assembly of each state after every census, right? And the parliament is empowered to determine how many seats will be allocated to each state assembly after every census. However, the parliament has passed 42nd amendment in 1976, and according to that amendment, it has frozen the total number of seats in the assembly of each state till 2000 at the 1971 population level. And later, in 2001, another amendment was made and it froze the total number of seats till 2026 based on 1971 population census. So a lot of people get confused because they see that after every election there is delimitation, which means the constituency is extended, some area comes under the constituency, some areas reduced, some area went to different constituency. So they get confused that then why, the seats have been frozen, then why does this thing happen? So see, what is happening is that according to this amendment, the total number of seats would remain constant based on the 1971 population census, which means it would not increase. So if there are 400 seats in UP, then it would remain 400 seats in UP till 2026 as the amendment says. However, there has to be reorganization within the constituencies, because some constituencies have more number, some have less number. So that is why we have this delimitation after every few years. And what do we have in this delimitation? So in delimitation, because of the increase in population, because of some areas come under a constituency, some areas decrease. However, the overall number of seats remain the same. So within these 400 seats, there is some reorganization within the constituencies. That is why you always see politicians crying that we have, because of delimitation, we lost. Because somehow they feel that this area was part of our constituency or was part of my constituency till last elections, and in this area I had a very strong hold. I had a lot of vote bank, but in this delimitation, this area has been given to another constituency, and that is why I have lost my vote bank, and that is why I lost. So this is the very common argument you hear from the politicians. So this is the main thing. Seats will be frozen till 2026, but internal reorganization of constituencies can take place based on the recommendation of the delimitation commission. Next is reservation of seats. Also, one more thing, that delimitation takes place based on 2001 census. Based on 2001 population, delimitation is carried out. Here is a trivia. Total number of seats are allocated on the basis of 71 census, but the delimitation or the reorganization of constituencies take place based on 2001 census, right? If you have any confusion, you can always telegram me. Next is reservation of seats for SC and ST. So, reservation of seats, as you know, has been there according to the population of the state, according to the percentage of SC ST they have in the state, and this has been extended till 2020. Next we have is composition of legislative council. This is very important because here there is a lot of difference between legislative council and the Rajya Sabha, and a lot of questions has been asked. At least twice it has been asked from last 6 years in the UPSC exam. So this is an area of focus. This is an area of importance. So when we talk of composition, first of all, the legislative council members are indirectly elected, just like we have Rajya Sabha members who are indirectly elected. So the maximum strength of council is fixed at 1/3 of the total strength of assembly. So if there are 200 people in legislative assembly, it means 60 will be the strength of legislative council. Second thing is that the maximum and the minimum strength is fixed at 40. So maximum strength is 1/3 of the strength of assembly, and the minimum strength is 40. One trivia is that only the maximum and the minimum strength is decided by the constitution. Rest, the actual strength is decided by the parliament. It's not written in the constitution that UP will have so many seats, Andhra Pradesh will have so many seats. It will be decided by the parliament. Now let's see the manner of election of members of legislative council. So 1/3 of the members of local bodies, 1/3 of the members of legislative council are elected by members of local bodies like municipalities and district board. One-third of the members are elected by the members of legislative assembly. So 1/3 are elected by local body, 1/3 of the members of legislative council, 1/3 are elected by the MLAs. 1/12 are elected by the graduates. 1/12 are elected by teachers of 3 years standing in the state who have not lower in standard than secondary school. So 1/12 of MLCs are elected by teachers who are at least secondary school teacher. And also 1/6 of the members are nominated by the governor. So this is the manner in which the MLCs are elected. 1/3 by local bodies, 1/3 by MLAs, 1/12 by graduates, 1/12 by teachers who are at least a secondary school teacher, and 1/6 are nominated by the governor. And these people are people who have special knowledge in literature, science, art, cooperatives, movement, and social service. Next we have is duration of 2 houses. So in terms of assembly, it is 5 years, just like the Lok Sabha. However, the governor can dissolve the assembly anytime when the government loses majority and there is no alternative government which can prove its majority. Also, during the time of emergency, the term of assembly can be extended by the law of parliament for 1 year at a time. So the duration of the assembly can be extended 1 year at a time during emergency. And that can be extended any number of times. So there is no limitation. They can extend it 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, as long as the government has the requisite numbers. Next we have is duration of the council, which is similar as that of Rajya Sabha. 6 years, 1/3 of the members retire every 2 years. And next we have is membership of the qualification for the membership of state legislature and state assembly and the council. So in case of legislative council, it is 30 years, just like we have in the Rajya Sabha, and in case of assembly, we have same as that we have in the Lok Sabha. Next is disqualification. So disqualification is also similar that we have in the parliament. So if the disqualification is based on the criteria of office of profit, unsound mind, insolvency, voluntary acquisition of citizenship of any country, then the governor will decide based on the recommendation of the election commission. While in case of anti-defection, if the disqualification is due to anti-defection, then it will be the speaker of the assembly who will decide. Right? So it's similar that we have in the parliament. Next we have is the vacation of seats. So this is also similar. So same that we have in the parliament, it is same here also. Next we have is presiding officer of state legislature. So we have speaker and deputy speaker, and we have chairman and the deputy chairman at the council. The powers they have are exactly similar to that they have in the speaker of the Lok Sabha or the chairman of the Rajya Sabha. Next we have is sessions of state legislature. This again is similar to that we have in parliament. That is why, you know what, when you read the central part, always simultaneously read the state part, because both of them are almost they are similar. So that will save your time also. So the sessions of state legislature are also similar. We have summoning, adjournment, prorogation, dissolution. I have talked about these words in the last lecture, therefore I will not repeat it again. Next is the case for the bill when they will be lapsed, when they will not be lapsed, when there will be dissolution of the state assembly. This is also similar to that we have in the parliament. Next is quorum, which is again similar to that we have in the parliament. Next we have is language in state legislation. So the constitution has declared the official language of state, the constitution has said that any state assembly can decide which language it wants to keep for its legislation. So it could be English, it could be Hindi, or it could be any of the official languages. Next is rights of minister and advocate general. So it's similar to that we have in the case of minister in the central cabinet and the attorney general. Next we have is legislative process in state legislature. Here there is difference between the parliament and the state legislature. Therefore we will be discussing in detail. So, first of all, the initial process is same. We have that any bill can be introduced in any house if it's an ordinary bill. First, we will be discussing ordinary bill. So, it can be introduced in any house. It will go through first, second, and third reading. And after a bill is passed in the originating house, it is sent to the second house for passing. So, the difference here is that then the power of legislative council in case of even ordinary bill is limited. So when we have in case of parliament, the Rajya Sabha has equal powers in case of ordinary bill and in case of constituent amendment bill. But legislative council, what can it do? See, suppose the state assembly passes the bill, right? Then it will go to legislative council, right? Legislative council can hold the bill for 3 months. For 3 months, it can hold the bill maximum in the first instance, right? Or what it can do, it can either agree that okay, we are agree with the bill, then the bill will be sent to the governor. Second option legislative council has is to not act on the bill for 3 months, right? That is the second option it has. Third option it has is that it can do amendment on the bill and then it can resend the bill to the legislative assembly, right? That is what it can do. Now, the legislative assembly, if it passes the bill again, then the legislative council has to agree it within first 1 month or only 1 month. If it does not agree with it, then the bill is deemed to be passed. Then the bill is deemed to be passed by both the houses and it will go to the governor for the assent. So my point is that legislative council can hold any bill, any ordinary bill, maximum for 4 months. In the first instance, it can hold for 3 months, and in the second instance, it can hold the bill only for 1 month. If it does not act on the bill for the 3 months, then legislative assembly can again pass the bill and then it has to accept in 1 month. Or if legislative council prescribes some amendment and sends it back to legislative assembly, then if legislative assembly again resends the original bill, the bill which it has sent to legislative council earlier, then the legislative council can only hold the bill for 1 month, and 4 months is the holding power of the Legislative Council. Now consider the second case. So if a bill is originated in the Legislative Council only, right? And after the bill is passed from Legislative Council, it goes, because we have already said earlier that the bill can be originated in any of the houses. And if that bill, after being passed from Legislative Council, if it arrives at Legislative Assembly, and if Legislative Assembly does not pass the bill, or if it does not take any action on the bill, then the bill is considered to be unpassed, or the bill ends there. There will be no other alternative left, right? So he has to agree with the bill. If he does not have to agree with the bill, then the bill is not passed at any cost. So this is the difference between Legislative Assembly and Legislative Council and Rajya Sabha. Because Rajya Sabha has equal power in case of ordinary bill. And also, there is no provision of joint sitting in State Assembly. There is no provision of joint sitting. Because joint sitting, to waha hogi na, I mean, it will take place only in house where the both houses have equal power and there is deadlock. In this case, if there is deadlock, then the will of Legislative Assembly will run over Legislative Council. Because Legislative Council is not equal here. He is just the position of Legislative Council is just as an advisory house. But the position of Rajya Sabha is very strong in comparison to Legislative Council. Next we have is assent of the governor. That we have discussed in briefly and detail in the last lecture. That he has 4 options, he can reserve them for the president. So I'll not be discussing here. Next is the provision of money bill. Here it is same as that we have in the parliament, which means that the Legislative Council, just like Rajya Sabha, has no power. It can only keep the bill for 14 days. Next we have is privilege, which is again same as that we have in the Lok Sabha or in the Parliament. So this is what we have in this chapter. All the important different part I have already covered, and rest is similar to the Parliament. So we'll move to next chapter, which is constitutional bodies. So first body is ECI, or Election Commission of India. So Election Commission, as you know, is in news in recent times for not so good reasons. There have been doubts on its impartiality, in its neutrality, in its working. But that is a concern for the mains, and we will be discussing this topic in detail during the next batch of Samachar Manthan or the mains test series. Here we will be discussing on the constitutional provisions of ECI. So Article 324 says that there will be Election Commission of India, right? And what about the appointment of Election Commission? So the President appoints the Election Commissioner and the Chief Election Commissioner, and it has a tenure of 6 years or 65 years, whichever is earlier. So the salary, the perks, the status of CEC is equivalent to the judge of Supreme Court. And the Chief Election Commissioner of India can only be removed through an impeachment, and the procedure is same as we have the case of High Court and Supreme Court judge. So we'll deal with the procedure when we'll discuss the judiciary. However, the election commissioners are not given the same security that is given to CEC. So election commissioner can be removed on the advice of CEC. They can be removed by the president on the advice of CEC. So this kind of protection is only given to CEC. That is why you must have been reading in newspapers that election commission is asking for similar kind of security to the election commissioners, right? Also, to ensure that it is independent, the Chief Election Commissioner, the condition of its service cannot be removed or cannot be reduced during his tenure. However, there is one lapse in the ECI, and this is a big trivia. The CEC is not debarred from getting into other government appointments after he is retired. This is a big trivia that we have it with the election commissioner. See, when a question is asked from election commissioner of these bodies, the functions of election commissioner and these things are very common. You think, you will be able to solve the question. The areas where you will get stuck is these trivias, and my focus will be on highlighting these trivias more. So the trivia here is that ECI is not debarred from further government office, and that is probably it is the only constitutional body, to my knowledge, which is not prevented from further employment under the government. So he is not debarred from further holding of government post. And this is also one more reform which the activists are asking, that it should be changed, because you have people like MS Gill who were chief election commissioners and later they became ministers in the union cabinet. So there could be a case where for favorable retirement posting, the chief election commissioner could favor the incumbent government. Next is the power of election commission. So, election commission enjoys complete autonomy from the executive. Also, the chief election commissioner is not the boss of election commissioner, he is first among the equals. So whenever there is any decision taken by election commission, it is taken by collegium, because we have 3 election commissioners right now, 2 EC and 1 chief election commissioner. So if 2 election commissioners decide on one issue, then even if chief election commissioner is not agreeable or he has a different opinion in that issue, then the 2 election commissioners' views will hold, because they have the majority. So chief election commissioner does not have any veto power. It's decided by the collegium of 3 members of the election commission. The only extra power with CEC is that he enjoys the security of tenure. He can only be impeached, but rest of them can be removed on its advice. Second power which it has is that its decisions are binding on President of India with respect to electoral disputes. So if there is any profit of bill thing, that if there is any issue of any profit of or office of profit thing, then the case will go to election commission, Election Commission will advise to the President and President will act on the advice. Just like it happened in the Delhi. In Delhi what happened? This thing happened, right? Election Commission said that they should be disqualified. Then it advised the President and President finally disqualified them. However, there is a provision of judicial review on the orders of Election Commission, like we have seen in the Delhi case, where the High Court has scrapped the order of Election Commission. So there is always a judicial review of the decisions of the Election Commission. Next power it has is that during election process, the entire center and state government machinery, including paramilitary and police force, is deemed to be on deposition of commission. So when there is election, the DM is not under the control of CM. The Chief Secretary is not under the control of CM. Every part of bureaucracy is deemed to be under deputation of Election Commission. Election Commission gets unlimited power for those 2-3 months when the election is conducted. So what are the functions of Election Commission? So this is very common that you can read it from the Lakshmikant book. So it is demarcation of constituencies, preparation of electoral rolls, establish and enforce code of conduct, scrutiny of nomination paper of candidates, scrutiny of election expenses, allot symbols and accord recognition to the political parties, render advice to the President and Governor regarding disqualification of MPs and MLAs, allot schedules for the broadcast and telecast of parties' campaigns. So these are the main functions of the Election Commission. They are very, very common, so you will get stuck in this. The trivial things I have already discussed. Remember it very, very carefully. Next is UPSC. So generally, UPSC is the most safe topic because very rarely UPSC asks question on itself. It's a very rare phenomenon. But since it's there in the book, we will be discussing that. So UPSC is the central recruiting agency. And it is independent, and Article 350 to 323 deals with that. No need to remember or mark these articles. You can only mark 50 most important articles which are there. Rest, there is no need to mark them. If you know, it's good for you, but there is no necessity to mark so many of the articles. Only thing you should be aware of is the provisions. At the end of this polity static lecture, I will give you the list of articles which you need to know. So, let's talk about the chairman and the members. So, the chairman and the members are appointed by the President of India, and at least one half of members of UPSC should have an experience of government service at center or state of at least 10 years. So they should have a 10 years experience as a government servant in either state or the center. For the rest one half, the constitution is silent. It does not mention any specific criteria. The age of retirement of chairman and members is 65 years or 6 years, whichever is earlier. Let's talk about the removal of the chairman. So the chairman or the members of the UPSC can only be removed from the office by order of president on the grounds of misbehavior. However, first of all, Supreme Court has to conduct an inquiry, and after an independent inquiry, Supreme Court will tell the president that yes, this guy is fit to be removed, and on the recommendation of Supreme Court, the president will remove the chairman or the member. So here is the difference between election commissioner and UPSC. Chief election commissioner can only be removed by impeachment, and here it can be removed by an inquiry process. So what are how does we ensure independence of UPSC? So there are a number of provisions which are there which ensures the independence of judiciary or independence of UPSC. So first of all, they enjoy security of tenure. They cannot be removed at its will by the president. There is a proper lengthy procedure. Secondly, the entire expenses, including the salaries, allowances, pension of the chairman and the members, are charged on the Consolidated Fund of India, which means that they are not votable. Also, the chairman is not eligible for further employment of the Government of India. Again, compare it with Election Commissioner. He is allowed to have further employment in the Government of India, but chairman of UPSC is not eligible for further employment. The member of UPSC are also not allowed for further employment except if they become chairman of the UPSC or if they become chairman of SPSC. So only in that case they are allowed, otherwise they are also not allowed. Next is the chairman or the members of UPSC are not eligible for reappointment. Now this is another trivia. They cannot be reappointed. Let's see what are the functions of UPSC. So UPSC, main function of UPSC is to conduct examination for the appointment to the services of the union. So it conducts the recruitment to the services and posts under union through conduct of competitive exams. It also does recruitment to services and posts under the central government by selection through interviews. It advises the government on the suitability of officers for appointment on promotion as well as on deputation. It also advises the government on all matters relating to methods of recruitment to various services and posts. It also is involved, or it is also advises the government with respect to disciplinary cases. Relating to different civil services. However, there is one trivia here that the Supreme Court has said that even if the government does not take the advice of UPSC in the above mentioned things, then the public servant cannot go to the court and say that injustice is being done to me. So the point is that this power of UPSC is advisory, and also it is discretionary on the part of government. Which means it is not mandatory for the government to ask the advice from UPSC. It is on their will, on their discretion, whether they want to ask the UPSC for the advice regarding the above 4-5 criteria, or it can not ask for the advice. Next is limitations on the powers of UPSC. So the UPSC is not consulted in following matters. So there are certain areas where the government is not expected to ask the UPSC for its advice. So in the above methods or the above areas we have seen, we have discussed the trivia that it is not mandatory for the government to ask for UPSC. It is on the discretion of the government. In the above matters, or in the matter that we will be discussing now, the government or the UPSC is not consulted at all. These matters are while making reservation or while making reservation of appointments or posts in favor of any backward caste. Secondly, while taking into consideration the claims of SC and ST in making appointments to the service and post. Thirdly, with regard to selections for chairmanship or membership of commissions or tribunals, posts of higher diplomatic nature, and bulk of Group C and Group C services. So third is selection of chairmanship of commission, tribunal, higher diplomatic appointments, Group C and Group D services. And fourthly, with regard to the selection for temporary or officiating appointment to a post, if a person is not likely to hold the post for more than 1 year, but technically for the temporary posts. So if a government wants to make laws in these 4-5 criteria, he is not supposed to take advice from the UPSC. Also, the president can exclude post services and matters from the purview of UPSC. That is also the power given to the president. So this is what we have in this chapter. The important things I have discussed, the areas where the question could be asked, I have discussed. And most important thing you have to remember in case of constitutional bodies is the process of appointment, the process of removal, and any other specific trivia. Like in this case, I have discussed that it's not mandatory for the government, but it's discretionary. These are the things you have to focus on more. Rest of the things are very similar, very common. You don't have to, you can solve the question by using little bit of basic sense. Next we have a State Public Service Commission. So most of the things are same. The things which are different I'll be discussing here. First of all, the maximum age is 62 years or 6 years, whichever is limited, right? The member and the chairman of the SPSC are not eligible for further appointment to any government post except when he is appointed as a member of UPSC or as a chairman of UPSC. So except that, he is not eligible for further or is not appointed for further appointment in the government, right? And just like one trivia here is that the members and the chairman of SPSC are appointed by the governor, but they can be removed only by the president. This is a big trivia here. They are appointed by the governor, but they can only be removed by the president, and the procedure is same as that we have in the case of UPSC. Also, the constitution does not specify the strength of the commission. So how much will be the strength? The constitution has not decided. It is left it to the discretion of the governor. Next we have is Joint State Public Service Commission. So the Joint State Public Service Commission, unlike the SPSC and the UPSC, is not a constitutional body. It is not a constitutional body. There is no provision of this in the constitution. It is a statutory body, right? It is a statutory body, and UPSC and SPSC are created by constitution. JPSC can be created by an act of the parliament on the request of state legislature concerned. So if two states kind of tell the parliament that please create a JPSC, then it can be created for two and more states. The conditions are same as that we have SPSC, 62 years and 6 years. It is same like everything is the same like the SPSC. Next we move is Finance Commission. So Article 280 provides for the Finance Commission, right? And it is constituted by the President of India after every 5 years or at such earlier as he considers necessary. So the first we'll deal with is the composition. So the Finance Commission will consist of chairman and 4 members. While chairman should be someone who is an expert in public affairs. 4 members one should be judge of High Court, or he should be qualified to be judge, right? Not he could be judge, or he is not a judge, but he is qualified to become judge. Secondly, somebody who is in specialized knowledge of finance and accounts of the government. Thirdly, person who has wide experience in financial matters. And fourthly, person who has special knowledge in economics. So these are the qualification of 4 members of the Finance Commission. But one trivia here is that the Constitution does not mention this thing, this qualification. Constitution has said that Parliament will decide the qualification of the members, and naturally Parliament has passed a law, and that law has decided the qualification of the chairman and the members. So if a question comes in the exam that Constitution has prescribed the qualification of membership for the Finance Commission, then it is wrong, right? It is not the Constitution, it is the Parliament which has decided the qualification of the members. Next we have is the functions. So it has basically 3 main functions. First is to decide on distribution of taxes between center and states. Secondly, it has to decide on the principle that should govern the grant in aid to the states by the center. So it decides the formula. Formula means that how much weightage should be given to population, how much to this area, how much to other things. So formula which will decide the grant in aid to the state. And thirdly, it decides or it also advises the President of India with respect to measures needed to augment the consolidated fund of state. Right? And to supplement the resources of the panchayats and municipalities in the state on the basis of recommendations made by State Finance Commission. Fourth function which it does is any other advice or any other matter referred to it by the President, that is unspecific. Any other matter. So these are the 4 main functions of the Finance Commission. Next is advisory role. Next is the most trivial thing of this chapter, which is that the recommendations of the Finance Commission is not binding on the Prime Minister or on the government or on the President of India. It is nowhere written in the Constitution that the recommendations of the Finance Commission will be binding on the President of India. So the government can decide to not accept even a single recommendation of Finance Commission. So it is just an advisory body. Its job is just to advise the government, and if the government feels that the advice is good, then it can accept their advice. If it doesn't feel that, then there is no provision of any coercion. But however, the convention is like that most of the advices of the Finance Commission are generally accepted by the center, at least at the center, right? So this is what we have important in this chapter. Next we have is National Commission for SCs or the Scheduled Caste. So it is a constitutional body which is directly established by the Article 338 of the Constitution. So one trivia here is that the other commissions like the National OBC or Backward Caste Commission, National Commission for Women, National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, National Human Rights Commission, National Minorities Commission, all these commissions are statutory bodies, which means they have been not in, there is nowhere in the constitution any provision is related to them. They are created after the Act of Parliament has been passed. However, in case of National Commission for Scheduled Caste, it is a constitutional body. Next we talk of is the evolution of the commission. So originally, Article 338 of the Constitution provided for the appointment of special officer for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes to investigate all matters relating to constitutional safeguards for the SC and ST and report to the President on their work. So originally the Constitution does not contain anything about a National Commission. It was introduced later. Originally, the Constitution said that there will be, under Article 338, it said that there will be officer of SC and ST welfare who would be investigating all the matters related to constitutional safeguards with respect to SC and ST and would advise the President on its working. His post was called as Commissioner of SC and ST. However, in 1978, the government set up a non-statutory multi-member commission for SC and ST, and in 1985, the government modified the function of commission and it renamed it as National Commission of SC/ST in 1985. No, so 1987. However, it is only in 1990, through constitutional amendment, SC/ST Commission was given a constitutional status. Right? So till 1990, National Commission for SC and ST were not a constitutional body. If a question comes in the exam that since beginning the Constitution had provision for National Commission for SC and ST, then you have to mark it wrong, because Constitution never mentioned National Commission for SC and ST. It only mentioned the Special Officer for Welfare of SC and ST, and it was only in 1990 that SC/ST Commission was given a constitutional status. And again in 2003, by 89th Amendment, the National Commission for SC and ST was bifurcated into two commissions: National Commission for SC and National Commission for ST. They were the two commissions that were created, and both of them were given constitutional status. Next we talk is the report of the commission. So the commission presents an annual report to the President, and President shall place all the reports before the Parliament along with the memorandum explaining the actions taken on the recommendations made by the Commission. So what it will do, it will submit its annual report to the President. The President will lay the report in the Parliament. The Parliament has to submit the memorandum on which it has to tell that what actions have been taken on the recommendations of the report submitted by SC and ST. Next we deal with is the power of the Commission. So the Commission is vested with power to regulate its own procedure. Once you read this power thing, it is same for ST, for National Backward Rights Commission, for National Commission for Women. It is the same. So you have to just read one commission's power very, very carefully, and then you are done. Because all of them, I am telling you the tricks how you can save your time. Because now that you have just around 50 days left for your exam, so you have to not just do hard work, you have to also do smart work. And the smart work can be done by the technique which I am telling to you. And my guarantee is that if you watch this lecture, and I will be covering each and every chapter of Lakshmikant, if you watch this lecture carefully, I don't think, and after that you read the book also, I don't think that any of your question in polity will be wrong. That is my guarantee, right? So the powers of commission is the National Commission for SC has all the powers of civil court while trying any suit or in case of any or in terms of any particular case. So it can summon, it has the power of summoning and enforcing the attendance of any person from any part of India and examining him the oath. It also has powers of requiring the discovery and production of any document. It can even tell any government official to submit any of the document it requires. Thirdly, it has the power to receive evidence on affidavits. Fourthly, it can ask for any public record from any court or office. It can also deal with any matters which the Parliament may determine. Also, along with these powers, it has some other powers, like the central government and the state government are required to consult the Commission on all major policy matters with respect to SC. So a recent example is this High Court order where they have diluted the SC/ST Act. So the government of India has asked National Commission of SC and ST ST for its advice. That what is your advice on this matter? So it is mandatory that the government has to take advice of the Commission in all matters related to SC and ST. Next is National Commission for ST. Now, it is same as that of National Commission for SC. There is no difference. Only thing is that it is established by the Article 338A in 2003. Right? So, rest of the things are similar. So, the functions I can repeat it in oral. So, the functions of Commission include to investigate and monitor all matters relating to constitutional and other legal safeguards for the STs and to evaluate their working. Secondly, it has to inquire into specific complaints with respect to deprivation of rights and safeguards of STs. Thirdly, to participate and advise on the planning process of socio-economic development of the STs and to evaluate the progress of their development under the union or a state. Fourthly, to present to the President of India annual report, to make recommendations that as to measures that the union and state should take for socio-economic development and welfare of the ST. So it can also suggest the union and the states measures which it should take for the empowerment of STs. And fifthly, to discharge such other function in relation to protection, welfare and advancement of STs as the President may specify. So there is one thing which is here, a trivia, which is that in 2005, the president has specified the following other functions to the commission, to national commission. So it has to advise the government, or it has to submit report in respect to following things, which are measures to be taken over conferring ownership rights, measures to be taken to safeguard. This is given in the Lakshmikant last page of this chapter, and a lot of measures are given. They are very factual in nature, and I don't think I need to waste my time here. Let me move to the next chapter. So you can read that, it is important. So you have to read that. Next we have is Special Officer for Linguistic Minorities. So Special Officer for Linguistic Minorities. So let's talk first about the constitutional provisions. So originally, the Constitution of India did not make any provision with respect to Special Officer of the Linguistic Minority. That originally, when the Constitution was formed, there was no mention of this office. This is the first trivial point of this chapter. This office was created on the basis of recommendation of the State Reorganization Commission. So therefore, 7th Constitutional Amendment was passed in 1956, and based on that, this office was created. Right? So, new article was inserted after this amendment, and that article was Article 350B. And what does this Article 350B says? So it says two things. Firstly, that there should be a special officer for linguistic minorities, and he will be appointed by the President of India. First thing is that. Secondly, it said that it would be the duty of this officer to investigate all matters relating to safeguards provided for the linguistic minorities under the Constitution. So it will be his duty to investigate all matters with respect to the safeguard provided to the linguistic minorities by the Constitution. Next we have is that it must be noted, and this is again a trivia. Remember the first trivia that this post was not a part of original Constitution, and the second trivia is that Constitution does not specify the qualification, tenure, salaries, allowances, service condition, and procedural for removal of Special Officer for linguistic minorities. So the Constitution is silent. Even Article 350B is silent in the matters of qualification, tenure, salaries, allowances, service condition, and the procedure for removal of the Special Officer for linguistic minorities. This is the second most important trivia of this chapter. Right? Remember it, very important. So next we deal with is the appointment and the term of AG. So AG is appointed by the President of India. Right? However, and second thing, which is that he must be eligible to appoint as a Supreme Court, as a judge of Supreme Court of India. This is the only qualification which is mentioned in the Constitution. So the term of office of AG is not fixed in the Constitution. This is the first trivia of this chapter. Second thing is, he holds the office during the pleasure of government. Which means that he does not have any fixed term. Generally, since he is appointed by the government in power, whenever the government falls or the government loses the election, it generally gives his resignation with the fall of the government. Also, the Constitution does not mention the ground of its removal. So this chapter has a lot of trivias, which means that it is a favorite topic of UPSC, because UPSC looks for those chapters where it has a lot of scope for making good questions, and that is why question on AG has been asked every alternative years or every 2 years. The question is asked on AG. One more trivia with this chapter, the last trivia we discussed was that Constitution does not mention the grounds or considers a procedure for its removal. And lastly, the remuneration of AG is also not fixed by the Constitution. It has to be decided by the President of India. So 4-5 things very important we will discuss is that his qualification, he should be eligible for being appointed as a Supreme Court judge. His term of office is not fixed. He holds the office during the pleasure of the government, which means he can be removed anytime. Constitution does not mention the procedure for his removal, and his remuneration is not fixed by the Constitution. Very, very important, the last 4 points, you need to remember at any cost. Next we talk is the duties and the functions. So here also, as the chief law officer of the government, it has following duties. It gives advice to the, one thing you have to remember, he is the chief law officer of the government. So he has to advise the government of India upon such legal matters which are referred to him by the President of India. Secondly, he has to perform other duties of legal character assigned to him by the President. Thirdly, he has to appear on behalf of Government of India in all cases in Supreme Court in which Government of India is a party. So as you know that Government of India is party in many of the cases. Some of the people file case against the government. So it is the AG who appears on the behalf of the government in the court. Fourthly, he represents the Government of India in any reference made by the President to the Supreme Court under Article 143 of the Constitution. So it is whenever the government files or the President files for advisory petition with respect to Supreme Court, it is the AG who will have to appear in the court. And what are the rights and the limitations on the AG? So in performance of his official duties, the Attorney General has a right to audience in all the courts in India. Secondly, he has the right to speak and take part in the proceedings of both the Houses of Parliament, and he could also speak in the parliamentary committees, but he does not have the right to vote. So I have right to take part in proceedings, but he does not have the right to vote. Thirdly, when he is inside the parliament, all the privileges which the members enjoy, the AG also enjoys them, which means he has the freedom of expression, he has the privileged power. Fourthly, what are the limitations which are imposed on him? So we'll deal with limitations. So first limitation is that he should not advise or hold a brief against the Government of India. So if Government of India is party in one case, he cannot become party in another case. Secondly, he should not advise or he should not defend person accused in criminal prosecution without the permission of Government of India. So he can he can run a government case, he can run a criminal case in the court, but he requires the permission of Government of India for it. Thirdly, he should not accept an appointment as a director in any company or corporation without the permission of Government of India. So he cannot accept the post of director in company without the permission of Government of India. However, one last trivia in this chapter is that he is not debarred from private practice. He is not a full-time employee of the government. He can have its private practice. Only constraint on him is that he cannot defend a criminal. He cannot defend a victim or a person who is involved in criminal case without the permission of the government. Rest, he is free to do his private legal practice, and also he does not fall in the category of government servants. This is also a big trivia. He does not fall in the category of government servants. So what are the basic trivias in this chapter? One, Constitution does not prescribe some method of removal of AG. The Constitution of India does not fix the remuneration. The Constitution does not fix the tenure of the AG. The AG cannot defend a guy involved in criminal conspiracy without the permission of government. He can take part in private practice, and he does not fall under the category of government servants. These are the 5-6 main trivias which you need to remember in this chapter. Next we talk is Solicitor General of India. So when we talk of Solicitor General of India, one trivia that I have explained is that there is no mention of this post in the Constitution. And his job is to assist the AG in performing his duties, because AG cannot represent the government in each and every case, because there are so many cases where the government of India is party. Therefore, he requires assistance from other people, and that is why we have this post of Solicitor General of India and Additional Solicitor General of India. Let's talk about Advocate General of India. So Advocate General of India it's same, the duties are same as of AG. Only thing is that he is appointed by the governor and he must be qualified to become a judge of High Court. So in case of Attorney General, he should have been judge of Supreme Court, eligible to be judge of Supreme Court, while in case of Advocate General, he has to be he should be qualified to be judge of High Court. Rest of them, everything is same. Next we'll deal with is the CAG, or the Controller, Auditor and Auditor General of India. So Article 148 deals with the Office of CAG. And let's talk about its appointment and its removal. So when we talk of appointment, it's very opaque. Nobody knows how he is appointed. He is appointed by the government, but there is no clear-cut procedure how he is appointed. However, he can be removed based on the same procedure as the SC judge or the Chief Election Commissioner. So if he has to be removed, he will have to be impeached. Compare it with the other members like UPSC and other members. Here it is tough. You have to be impeached. Only then you can be removed. This is done to give him the power and independence where he should work without any fear from being persecuted. So what is his tenure? So he holds office till he is 65 years or 6 years tenure, whichever is earlier. Let's talk about the provisions which have safeguarded him independence. So first of all, he is provided with security of tenure. He can be only impeached which is a very tough process to go. Secondly, he is not eligible for further office. He is not eligible for further office. Now, a lot of you will get confused. And how can then Vinod Rai become the chairman of the Bank Bureau Board? Well, because somehow the government proved that the post of Bank Board Bureau does not have any remuneration, and therefore it is not, and it's just an advisory post. Therefore, it would not be considered as a post under the government. So there was a big dispute on that. Opposition had said that Bank Board Bureau should be considered as a post under the government, but somehow the government proved that it is not a post under the government. Similarly, V.K. Shunglu was appointed the member of the commission which had done an inquiry on CWG scams. At that time also this thing happened, but at that time Shunglu said that I'm getting zero money, right? I'm not something working under the government. Therefore, it should not be considered as a government post. So there are some posts which are exempted, but the constitution says that he is not eligible for further office. Thirdly, his salary is equal to that of Judge of Supreme Court, and the service conditions cannot be removed or cannot be reduced during his tenure. Also, the administrative expenses of the CAG, including the salaries, allowances, pension of persons serving in that office, are charged upon the CFI or the Consolidated Fund of India, and they are not subject to vote in the parliament. So, what are the duties and the powers of CAG? So the CAG, it audits and accounts all the expenditure from the Consolidated Fund of India, Consolidated Fund of each state, and Consolidated Fund of each union territory having a legislative assembly. And this is the first main function of the CAG. Second is that it also audits all expenditure from contingency funds of India, public account of India, as well as contingency fund of state. So first of all, it audits all expenditure from CFIs, from Consolidated Fund of both India and states. Second, it audits all expenditure from contingency fund and public accounts of both center and state. Thirdly, it audits all trading, manufacturing, profit and loss accounts, balance sheets of all the departments of central and state government. Fourthly, it also audits all the receipts and expenditure of the center and the each state to satisfy himself that the rules and procedures are followed. Fifthly, he audits the receipts and expenditure of all bodies and authorities substantially financed by the central or the state revenue. So even if a body is private body, if it's substantially financed by the government or the central or the state revenue, then CAG has the power to audit its accounts. And sixthly, he he also audits the government and companies, the government companies and other corporations and bodies. So these are other audits which are, I mean, there are 6, 7 more audits, which or 6 areas where he audits more. It's given in the book. Factual thing, I think I don't need to waste my time here. One thing I will tell is that he acts as a guide, friend, and philosopher of Public Accounts Committee of Parliament, and also he certifies the net proceeds of any tax or duty, and his certificate is final. Next we come to is the audits conducted by CAG, type of audits conducted by CAG. So first audit is the regulatory and legal audit. So regulatory and legal audit deals with that whether the amount of money spent was legally available or not, right? And also whether the expenditure matches the life, and it will see that there is no discrepancy, right? There is no discrepancy in terms of expenditure. So how much was given in the budget, the amount is allocated accordingly. And secondly, the amount is legally available or not. Right? These are the two areas where it sees it or what it audits in the regulatory and the legal audit. Second audit is the proprietary audit. So when we talk of property audit, here the CAG, he looks into wisdom, faithfulness, and economy of government expenditure. So here it looks at whether if the government had spent rupees 100 for building the road, could it be possible that if it would have done some other, if it would have done some other method, the government could have spent just 70 for building the road. So here the government moves beyond the legal thing, that whether it is mandated for the government to spend, to look into the performance thing, that whether the government has done the best thing. This is what Vinod Rai did in the 2G case, where he went and said that if the government would have went for the auction, the government would have earned this much amount of money, right? So here the CAG advises the government, or it finds the report, that whether a wasteful expenditure is done or wasteful expenditure of public money is done or not, right? Next we deal with is the CAG and the corporations. So the role of CAG in auditing of public corporations is limited. Right? So there are basically 3 categories of corporation, and the role of CAG is accordingly. So in the first category we have corporations which are directly audited by CAG. These are Air India, Indian Airlines, ONGC, Damodar Valley Corporation. Second category is those where it is audited by private professional auditors who are appointed by the CAG, and these include Central Warehouse Corporation, Industrial Finance Corporation. And third category is that of those who are totally subjected to private audit, and these includes LIC, RBI, SBI, and FCI. So these are the, based on that, here the CAG is full control, here it is partial control, here it is limited control. Now, what are the limitations on the powers of CAG? So CAG has following limitations. First of all, the security agencies and the secret agencies, CAG cannot do audit of them. Secondly, CAG can only do audit of local bodies with the prior permission of the government. Thirdly, government cannot audit NGOs. So CAG cannot audit NGOs. And fourthly, CAG cannot audit PPP projects. These are the four areas where the CAG cannot audit, right? Rest of the matters, in rest of the cases, the CAG has the power to audit. So you have to remember these 4 points, very trivial for the exam perspective. So this ends our the topic of constitutional bodies. Next we'll deal with is the non-constitutional bodies.